To love is to give. To love is to give. And you know, it might not be the most theologically correct definition of love, but it's the most helpful, I think. To love is to give. Now, Jesus was very generous. He exhausted himself in his ministry, culminating with the complete gift of himself on the cross. And he taught his disciples to be generous. So all of us need to be asking, what are the gifts that God has given me? How can I best use them to build up the kingdom? And these gifts are a combination of natural gifts that we've developed and also spiritual gifts that God gives us.
Initially, this was an interesting group. We were parishioners and we were PQ Village residents. The PQ Village residents were very nervous, so the most vocal of them were constantly coming to this weekly meeting we had. And so what happened was, as time went by, we were strategizing, preparing for things, trying to figure out what to do, how we could help the residents to the best of our ability. So what began as the parishioners and the PQ residents, that slowly basically went away. There was an indistinguishable group called Save PQ Village that came out of this, and you may have heard of us, Save PQ Village. So what we did was, you can imagine the poor and the elderly were terrified. They didn't have any idea what was going on. A developer and the management company were going to demolish PQ Village if they could and then redevelop it. But there were so many questions that were obvious for the residents. You would think, they'd want to know, well, what do you know? What's the latest? Where are we going to go? What's all that? She simply said to me, no, we just have to move. That's all she said, was we have to move. So then I said, well, do you mind if I ask you some questions in case we can't save PQ Village? Maybe we could find out what kind of needs you might have. Like, for example, do you know where you'd move to, or do you need help finding a place to move to? And then, if you were to move, do you need help moving? And to every question, she simply said to me, that would be nice. So, you think about this. The woman's world is upside down. She has no idea what's happening next. She's thankful for any kind of offering of help I can give her. And all she's saying to me is, that would be nice, that would be nice. I mean, personally, I don't know about you guys, but I'd be pretty upset about what was happening around me. She wasn't bitter, she wasn't angry, she was simply thankful. When I left, I felt helpless, I felt angry, I felt ashamed, and I also felt invigorated by her. You knew you were doing the right thing during this whole process.
How do you evangelize? That's the thing. First of all, you cannot give what you do not have. So you have to have a really good relationship with Jesus. And you have to love him. You have to appreciate how good he is, right? Sometimes you'll go to this restaurant. You'll love this restaurant, right? You've experienced the goodness of the food there. And what do? You post it on Facebook. You tell your friends, this restaurant is great. And in a similar way, we should be able to naturally share our enjoyment, the strength, even the challenges that our faith life has for us with others. Now, some people are called to special ministries in the church. Priests have a special ministry of preaching. Some even as lay people are called to be evangelists. Now, maybe you don't feel that you have the personality for that, or that makes you really uncomfortable, but God still calls you to evangelize. And so one of the ways you begin to pray about the people that you already know in your life, that you know through work, through your friendships. And in July, one of our encounter prayer ministers shared with me that he had been inviting this woman he knew at work for months, just, a couple times over a couple months, to come to an encounter, and she wasn't interested. And then she just decides to come last Friday, the second Friday of July. And she had been suffering from a severe health problem. She had medical issues and pain. And so she went forward to be prayed over. And the minister put a hand on her back, and she began to feel intense heat in her stomach where her medical issues were coming from. And she felt this overwhelming sense of peace. And she hadn't slept well for weeks. That night and for many days after, she slept like a baby. The pain was mostly gone. But the bigger miracle was she's come back to the church, and she's brought her children back to the church. What did God use? He used a lot of different people, right? In bringing her healing and bringing her salvation. But someone had to invite her. Someone had to invite her. And that someone is going to be you with respect to somebody else. So don't be afraid to invite someone. What's the worst they can do? Say no. Big deal. Lots of people said no to Jesus in different ways. He never stopped inviting.